Hello, and welcome to another episode of ChargersCast. My name is Kirk Brewer. I am your host, and we are a fan-based podcast done by fans for fans. We've got a lot to talk about this week, and starts with discussing the Chargers away game in Arizona against the Cardinals on Monday Night Football. And then we're going to talk about the Week 8 home game in SoFi with the New Orleans Saints. And as usual, I am joined by my buddy Andrew Loya from Bolt Casa. Andrew, good to see you, my friend. We have a lot to talk about this week. It's a shame Brennan couldn't make it. I'm sure he's got some information too and some insights into this game, but he wasn't able to make it this week. So you and I are just going to have to hold down the fort, and I'm sure we'll pretty much cover everything. So what do you say we get rolling here? Let's talk about this Monday Night Football game. First thing I'll say is all three of us pretty much completely missed it in our predictions. If I had to give one of us some sort of kudos, I'm going to have to give it to myself because I did get the Cardinals score right at 17, but we all missed. We all pinned 27 points on the Chargers, and we all missed that badly. And so, yeah, it wasn't a good week for any of us. But I wouldn't say those were fanboy selections either. I think there's a lot of reasons to think the Chargers were going to have a strong showing, but we didn't. And so we'll get into that. Where we stand in the AFC West, let's just hit that real quick. It's not pretty, but again, it's not gloom and doom. Freaking Chiefs sitting there at 6-0. My God, those guys are pulling out. They're just winning games. It's nothing beautiful, nothing pretty. But you know, at the end of the day, nobody cares how pretty it is as long as you get the W in that column. And they're stacking W's. Okay. With our loss and the Donkeys win, they are now 4-3 and in second place, and we're at 3-3 in third place. You could kind of say we're neck and neck because we have the tiebreaker right now anyway, with the win against them and the previous week. And then the Raiders are pulling up the rear at 2-5. So the Chiefs are, their lead is growing. There's still a lot of football to be played. I've learned don't get too concerned that 3-game lead isn't that big at the end of the season if those guys stumble. But we've got some work to do to get we don't need to worry about the Chiefs. We need to get our house in order, and I promise you that's what Harbaugh's doing. So we got a loss, 15-17. It was an entertaining game, actually. I mean, relatively speaking, if you took the emotion out of being a Chargers fan and some of the stupid and weird things that happened, it was an entertaining game. But I don't think, with few exceptions, I don't think we met any of what my criterion keys to the game were for that game. We should have won. We had every opportunity to win that game. So a couple overall things, and I'll let you get your comments in here as well as kind of big picture. Number one, we should have won the game. I probably said that 3 times already. We had the opportunities to win that game. They outplayed us in the trenches. Both sides of the ball. We got out-physicaled, and that is a trademark that Jim is trying to imprint on this team. But now this would be 2 games out of 6, I would say, that we really got out-physicaled. And the Steelers, you could probably say, okay, there's a fair chance they could out-physical us because that's their brand of football, but you don't normally associate that with the Cardinals. Now, since they haven't had like J.J. Watt and Calais Campbell and, kind of that beef. But yeah, they out-physicaled us, dude. Both trenches. We lost a turnover battle, which was one of my keys to victory. Which is every week's the key to victory, and it was weird. Our turnovers were weird, and there was some luck involved in the turnover battle this week too. That we were just on the wrong side of it. And then, last but not least, as far as overall, the field position battle. We did not hold up our end of the bargain on that. They pinned us back multiple times. And I think we did get a field goal on one of them. That was a 95-yard drive when they pinned us back at or maybe it's 99-yard. They pinned us way back.
We were on the line. We were on
yeah, and we were able to march down the field and get a field goal on that one. But that's kind of my big take on this. Is it wasn't as bad as it felt. We underperformed in a bunch of aspects of the game. That was a 2-point loss versus potentially a 10-point win.
Yeah, that was a game we should not have lost. I mean, it started off so crazy, from the big deep ball to Jalen Reagor, which was really cool to see. We haven't seen that yet. We got that example there, and then immediately ball gets popped out. We're hoping he stepped on the line, we're good.
Or the ball hit the line.
Literally the worst of the worst. They get the ball back, and then you have the Tier Tart situation where he gets the the deflection, gets the interception, and then James Conner is able to punch it out. This game, to me, watching it I don't know how you felt during the game, but there was moments where I was getting pretty heated. I just couldn't believe what I was really watching. Up until this point, the Chargers were a top 5 defense, and then we were kind of getting smacked around by the Cardinals, who aren't really known for that. Like you mentioned, Pittsburgh, sure, with some key players going out in that game, understandable. But this was, even without Joey, Khalil Mack was the only defensive lineman to create pressures. Believe that. It was just so uncharacteristic. It's going to happen. But in the fashion that it did happen, watching James Conner just kind of sock us in the jaw over and over is not a good feeling as a Chargers fan. And it wasn't really good, as far as a brand of football with Harbaugh as our coach. It left a bad taste in my mouth. It was frustrating. And then there were some good things in this game, but clearly we have some issues with the roster that we know that we have, and it's clearly a thing that we know we have to address if we want to win those football games with those more high-powered offenses. But, another thing that stands out to me in this game is just basically the execution aspect. There were so many missed opportunities, I was rewatching just the highlights, before I like to do that before we get on the pod, and I go, yep, there was that situation, and then there was this situation. So it's that flag, this flag. It was a lot. It was a lot of situations that we just shot ourselves in the foot. By no means we should have lost this football game, and that's what is most frustrating about it.
Yeah, that's a really good summary. It almost felt like death by 1,000 paper cuts, right? It wasn't one thing that doomed us, but you had 2 weird turnovers, right? Okay, we get the interception. I think it was Mack who deflected it, and Tier Tart intercepted it, and the big boy starts rumbling. He had it in the right hand too, by the way, unlike Reagor. He had it in the right hand, the sideline hand. But I'm watching him run, and I'm sitting there, I'm yelling at the TV, get down, because I see the Cardinal coming up behind him, and I'm like, oh, shit. And sure enough, right on the ball, he gets it out. And then a similar one with Reagor going in. Now, he was holding it on the inside field hand versus the out-of-bounds hand. I'll maybe attribute that to him being a little rusty, maybe. But, right there's 10 points. Minimum. If not 14, but that's a minimum of 10 points. 7 on Reagor and at least 3 on Tier's fumble. Right there, the game's done. Regardless of bad calls, a holding penalty here or there, false start, a bogus pass interference call or whatever. That 10 points, we're well out in front. And then, little thing here, little thing there. But Conner out-physicaled us. Their defensive line out-physicaled us. Their offensive line out-physicaled us. And once he got in a hole, he either made a guy miss, which he didn't make too many guys miss, but he broke the first tackle and oftentimes the second tackle. And so, yeah, he put up some yards on us, dude. Not a ton, but the whole team put on a lot too. Murray ended up having a lot of yardage as well. So, let's go ahead and hop into, the different sides of the ball here and, where we performed or didn't. Might as well start with offense because that's the glaring part of this. Justin moved the ball, most passing yards this season at 349. Disley was his primary target. He was balling out. He had 8 catches for 81 yards. 7 receivers had a reception over 14 yards. And I want to say a total was 10 or 11 receivers when you throw in, pass to the back and, a couple little check down type plays. Again, we were unable to run 59 yards total. And that includes Justin scrambling. I want to say, JK had like 40 yards
on the dot.
I didn't jot down his specific number. The offense moved the ball. If Rager didn't fumble, there's 7. And we would probably be feeling better right now because all we needed is 1 touchdown. Even if he didn't score one of those field goals, if that was a touchdown, we win this game, right? Because we lost by 2, and that'd be a 4-point difference. We'd still be talking about these things, but we'd be feeling a little different as we're talking about them. It's just we're just off.
Yeah, and that's the thing. That's what made this game so frustrating. And not at one point actually did my temperament ever go. I never had an idea really of Greg Roman as me being mad at this game. It was just everything that I was seeing on the field, with some of the players, but the pass rush wasn't there either. When I say that Khalil Mack was the only one to get a collective pressure, he got 4 of them. And knowing that they came from outside the defensive line is a huge problem. So Joey Bosa is clearly missed.
Yeah.
Whatever everyone might think about Joey Bosa, the pass rush we needed that bad.
When Joey's healthy, Joey is dominant. The problem is he can't stay healthy for more than, a 2 or 3 or 4 game stretch.
Yeah. So there's that. And then there's the cast that, is it so much that did we move the ball down the field or did Justin Herbert move the ball down the field? There was Justin Herbert made some incredible throws, and his ability to sit in the pocket and be patient in some of the coverages that they were doing with him was really impressive. He did an outstanding job. Trying to think here, just to go back to it's a lot of things, and it definitely is. This team has a lot of situations in this game where it's all the above. Really, we have just a lot to improve on.
Yeah, well, you've got a wide receiver who's brand new to the team. This is his first performance under this scheme with this group of players. He gets a ball knocked out after, and by the way, I will say Justin underthrew that pass. If Justin hit him in stride, nobody's knocking that ball out of his hands. If you looked at that highlight, which you said you did before the game, he had to stop for that ball, which allowed the defender to catch up to him. But that being said, you got to hold on to that ball. And then a defensive lineman, in fact, probably our fattest, biggest, heftiest defensive lineman, getting the INT and then rumbling and bumbling and stumbling. It's just there was oddities associated with this thing that anybody who's, trying to blame Giro. Red zone, we need to do more work in the red zone. That's obvious. We don't have Donald Parham anymore. He was a great red zone target. Maybe, I'm still putting the vibes out there that Mike Dubb comes home and we've got a nice big target again on the outside. He was probably number 1 target, quite frankly, for the end zone. And then Parham was probably number 2 once we got it down in there tight. But that much. And one of the things you mentioned in kind of your overall summary, which I want to ask you about, is you were talking about, well, maybe there's some roster things that we need to address. And I don't necessarily disagree. I'd be interested to hear where on the roster you're thinking. I think I know at least one position. I think everybody knows at least one position. But I would also ask, is it as much roster as it is? Because you also mentioned execution and scheme. And I don't mean scheme from the fact that, I saw a couple more posts about Giro.
Oh, man, they were going off on that, yeah.
Get over it, man. Just get over it. You guys are going to be praising Giro. I promise you the day is going to come when he's still donning lightning bolts, and you're going to be praising the dude for building a beast of an offense, with Justin being able to throw dimes all over the field and a running game just tearing people up. We're not there yet, though. And so that's my opinion. Like to hear your thoughts on, is it execution? Is it scheme? Is it executing the scheme? Or is it a glaring hole 2 or 3 on the roster?
It's never going to be one thing in the NFL, right? Like, I'll never say that. I'm never going to say, well, this player will fix our problems. It's never going to be that, guys. It's a lot of things. It is execution. Like, on top of what you mentioned as far as the points we left on the board, as far as those situational things that happened, how about the red zone situations? Here's a quote from Chase Daniels. Justin Herbert throwing for over 300 yards with this crew is quite possibly the single greatest accomplishment of the NFL season. And he's not kidding.
He's not. And Disley especially was the primary target.
Absolutely. We just watched C.J. Stroud throw for less than 100 yards with the cast that he has. I mean, there's not a world where Justin Herbert's throwing for. You could, if let me look at this. Who's this?
Another stat, real quick, while you're looking,
Sure.
that I heard. I didn't verify it, but I heard, which is Justin Herbert's yards and QB rating it's an all-time record for a quarterback to throw for that many yards with his QB rating in that game and not throw a touchdown. It's never happened in NFL history.
Man, that's such a. I wanted to say that's
an indictment of our ability to get in the end zone, but that Rager fumble, it was like right there. So there's a little bit of weirdness in this game too that you can't necessarily say is a pattern. If there was one area to focus on the offense, it would be red zone offense. Everything else, the offensive line didn't block as good, both for the running game and for Justin. There's a lot of pressures on Justin, and I want to say they got 3 sacks on him this game. It might have been 4. There was one cheap one where he was flushed out of the pocket and he was like a yard short of the line of scrimmage. But yeah, he looked healthier. His ankle looked pretty damn good. That throw he made to the right to Josh, who dotted both eyes with his toes, talk about an insane catch. That was a thing of beauty. I saw this in real time. I'm like, oh, that's a catch. Sure enough, when they showed it, just beautiful. So there's some things to be optimistic about.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that was a picture perfect dig route. How to get it inside. That was
it's beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. We did not have DJ Chark back this week, so fingers crossed. He's eligible. Maybe we see him this week. I haven't seen the injury report for us yet this week. But I think we're good on the offense. Probably the only other thing I'll mention is, and I'm surprised you haven't mentioned this yet, to be honest with you, because you're much more stats guy than I am. But we have now had 15 offensive drives without scoring an offensive touchdown.
I didn't even have that stat anywhere. Have not seen that stat.
15 drives. And we only have 1 second half touchdown so far in 6 games. And that was in week 1. So there is some work to be doing in this offense. And I think red zone, both of those things, I think epitomize red zone offense. We've got the weapons for it. Maybe not that really big body guy, but I think we might fix that one way or another here soon. There was rumors that we're sniffing around Njoku. He'd be a good red zone target as long as the price is right.
Well, I mean, what do you think about that? Him as a player. I know my buddy. We were talking on the phone earlier today, and he didn't really like the idea of it. And I was like, I like it. I was like, we need a pass catcher tight end threat. Like,
yeah.
I mean,
and Hurst has been hasn't yet been that guy, and now he's hurt. And I think it's an Achilles, if I'm not mistaken.
I don't know.
It didn't sound like anything major, but he's recuperating. My thought on Njoku is, man, he's got all the physical traits in the world, and so my perception of him from afar has always been that he's an underachiever. Now, is that because he's in Cleveland? You know what I'm saying? There's certain franchises where players maybe underachieve, and then they go to another place, and you're like, oh, there's that talent we saw that never manifested itself on the field. So Njoku would be a good addition. Again, I don't want him paying big bucks for anybody at this point, because we are still piecing together what this thing's going to be. But if you can bring somebody in who definitely can help this season, and possibly, if they're young enough, be around for a few more seasons, depending on what they show this season, I'm cool with it. I'd love to see us get a big, tall receiver. And I think Mike fits the bill for so many reasons, and the price is going to be so right. But I think we're going to have to wait and see on that one. Now, D. Hopkins is off. So we've had 3 receivers now change hands in the last week, and Hopkins is now, guess where? On the 6-0 Chiefs.
Of course he's on the Chiefs.
Yeah. So I'm hoping that this is going to be one of those scenarios where he doesn't mesh with the rest of the team. You're starting to put a conglomeration of talent together, and maybe it just doesn't. It's not a fit, but he's still got game, and his hands have always been incredible. So, how that works.
Yeah, he's always been considered one of the best, but as of late, he's kind of been a little bit out of the spotlight. There was another conversation I had earlier, and I'm just, I wouldn't say I would be through the roof if he came to the Chargers. I mean, considering what other options could be possible, it's better than nothing for them, considering the issues that they're having. But going back to Njoku, I mean, if Justin Herbert can get 8 receptions to 81 yards to Will Dissly, scheming that up, I mean, imagine what we could do with him. We could definitely make something really nice out of that.
Yeah, and I think he'd be a good red zone target. We need to focus on the red zone. I think between the 20s, we're pretty good in general. We could have blocked better this game, especially for the run game. But man, they were filling gaps, man. These guys need to go back and look at the all-22 and really see where their fits weren't fitting, because they got out blocked in trenches, and
we got our butts whooped, and the most common thing that we knew that was going to happen happened. They looked at our outside receivers, and although they had a couple plays, I mean, Justin moved the ball. Overall, the Cardinals said, we're going to play back. We're going to let you guys play in front of us, and that set the tone. They had that space on us because they wanted to pack the box.
Yeah,
and they were hitting hard. And they brought, they were the more physical team. And then that's, going back to like the boundary situation is there's no threat. And that's kind of what happens. It's kind of the recipe. And although we were able to do, take it for what you want. That's a pretty incredible thing that Justin Herbert threw for 300 and however many yards. But just that missing ingredient as far as execution, we got to get it resolved. And I know that Harbaugh and the coaching staff understand that this isn't a 500 type season. Absolutely not. Like, that's not the mindset that roster has, nor does the coaching. No one thinks that. Maybe some fans may think that. No one in the Chargers organization is going to sit there and go, yeah, we're going to maybe bat 500 this year. Absolutely not. So we'll see. I know our GM saw the same thing we did. Yeah. He felt that too, and he's having conversations that we don't know about. But with DJ coming back, would he be a big solution? Probably not. But I think he would give us improvement. I think things will change. So hopefully there's something that can add to that. But clearly, we gotta make a move. It's gotta be a difference made for sure.
Yeah, I mean, if you go back and look at last week's episode, we talked about having DJ take the top off the defense multiple times. And in fact, I think we talked about it the week before too. It's something that's missing from this offense, and you nailed it. They were stacking the box most of the game because they knew we really didn't have anybody who was going to get behind them. And so that allowed them to contain the run much better, but they were still more physical than we were. I mean, they really were bringing it, but they were stacking the box on us, and we didn't have anybody take the top off.
Even sorry to interrupt you, but even those successful plays that we had, those corners were on us. We got just a window, great throw, great route, but they were on us. It's tough. It's a tough way to win a football game.
Yeah. Now, that last PI, or actually the non-PI call, as we're trying to go down and win the game, and they're like, "Oh, it was over his head." According to Jim, that was supposed to be a double move, and the Cardinals DB absolutely was mugging the receiver as he was making his cut to then. And I think it was Josh Palmer, if I'm not mistaken, and then was, going to turn around and make the double move up the field where Justin was actually throwing the ball. And so Harbaugh's argument was, number one, it was uncatchable because your guy held my guy, and so he couldn't get into his double move. But number two, even if you're not going to call a PI, you should be calling a defensive holding, because, he literally was bear hugging the guy. And at least call a defensive holding, give us 5 yards and a first down. And instead we got, too bad, so sad. Have a nice day. Here's your consolation prize. There were some questionable calls, and we as fans, we can call BS on those way more than the coaches can. They've got things with the NFL where they have to mind their P's and Q's because they'll get fines if they talk bad about the refs, but we can talk bad all we want. Let's get into defense real quick. I'll try not to belabor it too much, but our defense, it felt worse than it was. Once I went back and kind of reevaluated it, because we couldn't stop the run, it felt like we actually didn't do that good of a job. We really had the one play where Kyler got out and Colson took a horrible angle and didn't tackle him. And so Kyler Murray got out and scored. It was a 40-something yard touchdown, right? What's that?
I said I couldn't believe it. When I was watching in real time, I was like, there's a flag, right? There's a flag on the field.
Oh.
Where the hell is everybody at? I was like, no.
Well, and I saw it in real time, and I'm watching Junior Colson. I'm going, oh, he's not going to get there. He waited too long. That one misstep that he took back to the middle of the field, that was all Kyler needed. And you saw Kyler, right? Kyler turned around after he got past Colson. He's like, oh, I can walk in from this point. So besides that one play, and then just kind of, I don't want to say we got gashed. We just continuously got thumped by Connor. Look, we still held these guys to 14 points. Now, technically it was 17, but the reality is, while the game was competitive and it wasn't right there at the end, it was 14 points that we held these guys to. We should never lose a game if our defense holds the opposing team to 14 points, period. So even no matter how bad it felt, that we're like, man, we can't stop these guys. 14 points. It's not like they put 28 up on us. It was 14 points. And yeah, okay, so it was 2 touchdowns instead of 2 field goals. We should have kept them out of the end zone. But that Kyler Murray play, that was what it was. The other one, they drove down the field and, they out-schemed us on that out route to the receiver, 5 yards or whatever it was. So all in all, I would say it wasn't as bad as it felt watching the game. But they did put up 181 total yards on us. Yeah. That's not pretty, but at least it was under 200. So consolation prize, at least it was under 200. Our defense forced 2 turnovers. One of them, Tierra intercepted. The second one was a fumble, but we didn't recover it. That was good, right? We didn't get a lot of pressure on Kyler. Um, Khalil is by far our best pass rusher, hands down. Is he 33 years old now or something? The guy is absolutely beasting. Um, and so, yeah, I mean, all in all, the defensive performance wasn't as bad as it felt. And they weren't ripping us up in the passing game. It was really they just kept, getting 5 yards and 6 yards and 8 yards and 5 yards on all of these running plays. So I think our defense, for the most part, did the job. For the most part, because at the end of the day, it's points, right? It's not yards, it's points.
They certainly did enough, and that stopping them on that 4th down attempt was huge.
That was huge, dude. And Khalil, again, he was almost single-handedly responsible for stopping him on that one.
Remember, we used to never get those on. We didn't get any of those with Staley. So that when this is not the first time, this is at least the 2nd or 3rd time we've done it this year. Yep. So it's a super good feeling. They did more than enough, and it just adds more salt to the wound on how we lost this game. Like you said, they did enough, but it's like the offense. It's like this. It's so glaring that if we couldn't put something together. It's just so much salt in the wound in this situation of a game. It's such a bummer.
Yeah, but I don't think it's a subtle difference, right, between executing those things and not executing those things. And I think we're really close. And again, like I said, if Rager didn't have that one, then we get the touchdown there. And even though they were gashing us in the running and it didn't feel good, we've got the W. So we're talking about these things from the winning side versus the losing side, right?
Yeah.
And so I think we're just a little bit off. I don't think there's reason to panic. And by no means is there reason to panic regarding our record at 3-3 with 11 games left to play, right? There's plenty of ball. KC, you never know. They could come back to us, but even if they don't, there's still plenty to play for from a wild card perspective. And you know the deal, right? Once you get into the tournament, everybody's 0-0 again. So we need to just focus on ourselves, and I think we'll be all right. I for anybody who's out there, screaming the sky's falling, fire G-Row, revamp the whole roster, I don't think we're that far off. Now, do I think there will be changes in the offseason to upgrade some positions on this roster that they aren't going to be able to make in season this year? Oh, yeah, for sure. I've been talking since training camp about the center position. I really think in the long run, we are probably going to draft our long-term stud center. Bozeman's holding down the fort, but his PFF ranking is
he's not
pretty.
34, there's 32. So these teams have, based on however many stats that they use to take an account of your ranking, well, there's a few more outside the 32 teams that are ahead of him. So that's
yeah, and he started every game but one, I think. So it's not like, there's a limited pool. I like him, but I do think in the grand scheme of things, he's probably a good veteran backup versus your starting center.
I'm also really surprised, too. I thought he would be playing better than what he is, so it's disappointing. And this game, it's exactly what they won and exactly how they were going to win. How are you going to win? Not pressuring Kyler, giving him the easy checkdowns. Then there was such a good complement between Connor and McBride. Mm-hmm. Connor was able to pose just enough of a threat, and Connor was able to just get away in the flats and just make it so easy for Kyler, which they didn't put up many points, but they were able to do just enough to win the game. And it's and my keys to beating this team is, I think that's what I would wanted to focus on, but I understand that it makes it difficult to try to eliminate someone like Trey McBride when you have Connor bouncing runs to the outside and making missed tackles. It's a hard thing to do, and they did exactly that. Marvin Harrison wasn't the problem, and I knew he wouldn't be.
Yeah,
I say that confidently, and people are like, "Oh, you knew that," but I spoke on that. It's I know that that's not Kyler's strong suit. And I personally think that that's not exactly the best pairing. I don't think Kyler Murray is the type of, everyone can see that. He's not the sit in the pocket and drop dimes and fit windows. He's a good quarterback. He's a talented quarterback. But you give him a run game with success and easy checkdowns to a tight end, it seems to work for a lot of quarterbacks in the NFL. Let's get our quarterback that situation.
Yeah, Kyler's a scrambling quarterback. If you want to talk about our keys to the game and not executing them, one was keeping him in the pocket. Well, the few times we let him get out, he burned us, and one of them was for a long touchdown. Yeah. And then the other one was field position. They were able to flip the field on us. And gosh, I don't count these things. Maybe I should if you guys care about it, but you guys know too. You watch the doggone game. They had us pinned back inside our 10, at least 4 possessions. At least 4 possessions. We were starting deep in our own territory, and one of them was literally like on the 1. Another one was on like the 5. Okay, Ladd isn't normally the returner, right? Double D was out. So Ladd, I think, without exception, fair caught everything except the one he let go over his head that they downed on the 1 or the 2. And it's like he did the right thing though, because it was where you have to let it go, because the odds are it's going to bounce into the end zone or bounce back and you're going to get better yardage. But it just so happened to take the right bounce. So yeah, it was a funky game, and it was funky enough with the weird turnovers and, just some of those things, us not keeping Kyler in the pocket, us not executing certain things, that they were able to eke out this 2-point win. Heck, even if Rager's thing happened, if Thier went down and we kick a field goal, we're winning 18-17. And our boy, by the way, we haven't talked special teams yet, but Dicker's a freaking weapon, right? Dicker's a freaking weapon, man. The kid is like ice in his veins. 49, I don't care. And if that thing looked like it was going to go from 69, he put some freaking toe into that ball. So he could have kicked 6 field goals, and we could have pulled that out by a point. Just enough things didn't go our way in this game that we ended up taking the L. And this is not one. I hope it's not the case. I really hope it's not the case that we're looking back on this game as the one that got away, as the difference in our record where we need, it's get in or go home. Fortunately, it's not a division game, so it doesn't have quite as much weight if we get, in a tie and you get to tiebreakers and stuff. But we'll be watching this one for the rest of the season for sure. This one is one that got away.
Yeah, such a winnable game, and that's super frustrating. So, the next opponent as we get into.
Yeah, let's get into the Saints, brother. Unless you got anything else.
I don't. I mean, is there anything that you want to note on this game other than this game just was pretty painful, uncharacteristic? I'm speaking for myself, like uncharacteristic of the Chargers, and it just hurt that we just couldn't find a solution. Considering all the other successes that we had and the failures on the other side of the ball. So it was a hurtful one.
Yeah, no, I'm done talking about that one. I may have to circle back and revisit it later in the season for the reasons we were just talking about. Fingers crossed this isn't one that comes back and bites us, but I really got no more to say. It was a weird game. It was entertaining. If you're a Chargers fan and you're just a football fan and you're watching it, it was an entertaining game, kind of back and forth. But it's one that got away. We should have won it. There's a bunch of reasons why we could have won it, and we didn't. And some of them are just anomalous. You can't just go, oh, this is the Chargers. If you took that game and looked at it and go, this is the 2024 Chargers. Oh, hell no. There's all kinds of funky things in there that aren't the 2024 Chargers. So let's move on from it. And hopefully we aren't looking back going, that Arizona game ended up costing us. The Saints, they are coming into SoFi. They started out the season hot. They spanked the living daylights. I think their first game of the season was Carolina, if I'm not mistaken. I could go back and look on their website.
They whooped somebody.
They blew out. I want to say it was Carolina, but let's all pull them up real quick. Yeah, 47-10 Carolina. But then they go in to Cowboys Stadium and they smoke the Cowboys 44-19. Okay, weeks 1 and 2. And you're going, oh, okay, these aren't the Saints I thought they were going to be. And then they've lost 5 straight. Derek Carr's hurt. Based on their injury report, his oblique, did not practice today. Rumor is that he's not back at least till next week, which means we may get the rookie Spencer Rattler. I like Spencer Rattler. I think he's a pretty good QB in college. I think he's, feisty. He's got some game to him. Do I think he's going to be, the next coming of Mike Vick or CJ Stroud or, pick somebody? No, not from what I've seen so far. He had an interesting week last week. He made some plays, but he also showed how much he's a rookie. So I hope we get him, even though we've always played David Carr well. It was our Raider days. We've always played him well. I'd rather have the rookie. So, right now it's looking like David Carr's out. We'll probably get Spencer Rattler. They're coming to our house. And I want to say our guys are probably got a little edge this week. I don't think they really appreciated losing that game in primetime.
Yeah, I didn't realize it was a home game, but the Saints, they looked about as bad as you can look, and they're decimated with injuries. And with that said, like when you go out there, when I watched that Bronco game,
yeah,
I was like, this is as bad as you can look with an injured squad. So no game's winnable in the NFL, but this is certainly one that we should show up, take care of business, and try to get back on track. Talk about a perfect game for DJ, which I'm assuming and expecting him to play in this game. It does look like Marshawn Lattimore. Okay, so they got some healthy corners and a safety. Okay, so their secondary here is pretty impressive. They got Marshawn Lattimore. They've got Tyrann Mathieu.
Yep.
Are you familiar with Kool-Aid McKinstry, the rookie that came out of Alabama this year?
I'm aware of him. I know he was, talked about very highly coming out in this year's draft. I don't follow college ball too closely until draft rolls around and then start, kind of evaluating the prospects, hitting them up to, our needs, so to speak. But he was a first round pick, was he not?
That's right. Yeah, and he's playing pretty well. So they've got some talent that seems to be healthy on that part of the defense.
I like Tyrann Mathieu. He's been good. I mean, he's getting a little old now, but if he's lost a step, he's definitely going to make that up in experience.
And yeah, so they got some players. Cam Jordan, you can go down the list. They've got some players, but with this decimated offense, it doesn't matter. It was evident in the last game. They got worn out, and they got worn out quick. And again, it's every week. It's always going to be a key for our success. We have to establish the run game, and we got to do it. For everyone out there who's like, we got to get the pass game going. Absolutely. Absolutely. But we got to get the run game going. And this is just a favorable matchup where you look at it and go, okay, yeah, we got to take the wind out of this defense and keep it going all night. And that's just exactly what we got to do to win against the Saints, because they're hurt, and they're hurt bad. And they don't have a lot of, when you look at Spencer Rattler and their weapons, I'm not concerned for their offense. I think that our defense matches up very well with them. This is absolutely a winnable game. I have nothing but a winning expectation for this week.
Yeah, and I think we should. Like I said, I think our boys are going to be a little salty this week after dropping the last game. I'd like to see DJ come back because, again, he taught keys to the game. I still think we need that deep threat. Otherwise, these guys can do like the Cardinals did, start crowding the box and forcing us, will beat us with the passing game, which we know Justin's surgical. But there's only so many windows within that first 10 or 15 yards when they're crowding the box. And so we need to get behind these guys and give them the threat that we can get behind you. And Justin can throw the ball 70 yards in the air. And they need to feel that fear of God that they could at any moment have a lightning strike and somebody's behind them doing a dance in the end zone because they weren't paying attention. So we need, hopefully DJ comes back and he can add that element. As far as, their defense, that's really all I got to say. I think, they've got quality DBs and, their defense is pretty solid, but I think we can exploit them as long as we stay on our game. Turnovers, they're critical every week. This week, I think, establishing the run, and we've been doing better at this the last couple of weeks, which is, I think we need to continue to convert on third down. So if we can just methodically establish the run, march down the field, and let Justin take his shots, it should be, and it could be, a fairly boring game. But, again, any given Sunday, you guys are going to hear me almost every week talk about any given Sunday, and the Cardinals just proved it, right? Any given Sunday, any team can beat anybody. Who the Carolina Panthers beat for their one win a couple weeks ago. It wasn't no slouch that they got their one win against. So any given Sunday. So we have to come in prepared, execute, and I'd like to see, again, third down conversions and the red zone. We gotta score more actual touchdowns. And I'd like to see some in the second half just so we can get that monkey off our back of, only one touchdown in the second half so far this season.
I hope it's not boring. I really do. What I saw last week, they couldn't get Alvin Kamara going. With DJ coming back, it's gonna boost the offense. It's gonna give everyone a lift. It's gonna give Ladd that support. It should help out Josh Palmer on the outside. It should do more good than anything. So I hope it's not a boring game. I hope all facets of the offense cooks. I don't want to see a low-scoring game. I want to see us put it on somebody. And this is a perfect week to do that. Make a point, because I know right after that game, there's probably a lot of people out there writing off the Chargers, and so be it. But I think this is a game where we literally put a stamp on something, and this is we want DJ back, and here he is. So let's see what happens. Put some points on the board. Yeah.
You're getting a little ahead of me as far as game predictions go. So I'll hold off on that until we get to that point. But I do feel similar that this could be the one, especially coming off this Cardinals game and feeling a little salty, where we could finally kind of see what this offense is going to look like when all the pieces come together. We'll have to see. We need to get DJ back. He's the one guy who can really stretch the field. Yeah, I mean, those are my keys to the game on defense. If Carr's out, we've got a rookie quarterback. So, their biggest threat's Alvin Kamara. He just signed an extension that's going to keep him there, a few more years anyway. So he's probably the primary threat. So cut down the run and rattle Spencer Rattler with our defensive line. Blitz the snot out of him if you have to. But literally get this kid off his mark, get his time clock sped up early in the game. And, then at that point, let's watch him throw a few picks to our DBs or maybe to our defensive tackles. We've got two tackles with interceptions now. Puna's got one and Tart's got one.
Yeah, I guess my closing summary for this game is this is a game that's not a get-right game for the Saints. This is the game that, we're going to get right and come back with everything that we've lost. No, this is the Chargers should be the ones that are going to get right in this game. This is that game for us. This is not that game for them, and that's what I expect from this week.
Yeah, no, I agree wholeheartedly. These guys are reeling with 5 straight losses, and they just lost 33-10 to the Broncos, who we beat a week ago. It was a good game, but 33-10 33-10, and it didn't even feel that close.
When everything was like this in that game, as opposed to the Saints, when everything was huge, everything was so bad. Ours wasn't that bad. Ours were little things. We fixed those little things, and it's exactly why the rest of this schedule and going forward that we still have an opportunity to get in the playoffs. We're still a good football team, regardless if we do nothing with this offense or we do. Everything about the Chargers should spell success, even though it's been a little bit of a struggle. But yeah, that's just my closing thoughts on this game. Absolutely, we have every reason, and we should get right on track on this game.
Yeah, and I think that's good for all of us fans to, keep in mind here. Like I said, it's been a bunch of little things. It's not just one thing, and it's not a bunch of big things. There's a lot of new pieces, including the coaching staff and the schemes that are still coming together. You're seeing flashes the first 2 weeks. We're seeing flashes of an insane running game, and we know what Justin's capable of. And even with the receiving core not being full with DJ out, Justin still put up 350 yards. It should have been 350 yards and 2 or 3 touchdowns. So they need to work on that stuff. But we are in this part of our schedule. Now, the Cardinals game should have been one of these, okay? And this is one we've said. We let it get away from us. It should have been one of these, but we hit this stretch right now where it was Cardinals, Saints, Browns, Titans, before we then play the Bengals in our house, okay? I suspect the Bengals will start coming on. They've started slow, like they have the last few years. They'll start getting their business together, and that could be a game that we need to pay much closer attention to. Not that you can ignore any of them, but we're in this stretch where these should all be winnable games. Deshaun Watson's out for Cleveland. I'm going to say that's a plus, but honestly, that might be a plus that he's actually out. And I think they're going with Jameis Winston.
And he could throw it.
He can sling it. Now, again, he's the poster child of throwing the ball all over the yard doesn't equate to winning seasons and championships. That's why he's no longer in Tampa Bay. I mean, he put up 5,000-yard seasons, and they still weren't very good. So, but he can sling it around the yard and any given Sunday. So one at a time here, but we're in this stretch till we get to Cincinnati in week 11, and then it's Baltimore, so let's take care of business while we can here. Let's take care of these guys. There's no reason we shouldn't be able to, talk about everything we talked about here, get our running game going. Let's get DJ back. I want to see, we may not have pulled the trigger on a receiver yet, possibly because they're waiting to see what we have with DJ. Now, DJ's been an injury-prone guy. That's how he's ended up at a couple places and now with us. And then he starts the season on IR, and he misses at least the first 6 games of the season, plus the bye, so 7 weeks if he plays this week. So the jury's still out on this dude.
Yeah, and that's like almost as bad as it could be worse, but it's like, dang, I can't imagine Joe Ortiz is like thinking that, yeah, we're just gonna ride this out. It's like that doesn't seem to check out for me. It's like he's been on IR. Like, oh, what if he gets hurt again in this first game back? Like, I can't imagine that he's just we're gonna settle on this. So there's something I feel like chances are there'll be a move. I don't know if it'll be a receiver, tight end, but I think that something's going to happen. And I'm getting pretty sick and tired of watching Justin Herbert have to be a surgeon out there and go to such war, such crazy depths just to find success. We gotta support this guy because he seems to support everybody else. Like, that's kind of how I view the offense. Is we're looking at a guy who just makes it happen. It takes an elite quarterback to make those throws that these guys come up with from time to time. I don't think it's necessarily so much these players doing these incredible things on the other side of the football. And I'm not trying to say that they do nothing, because they're good, but I don't think there's really many people out there that are looking at the Chargers that can really even name maybe 2 of our receivers, they might get Ladd.
Ladd.
Seriously.
And the only reason they probably get Ladd is because of the comedian that was on Ice. Ladidi. Yeah. We need a red zone target.
Yeah.
After 6 games in, I'm feeling we don't have one. I thought that was going to maybe be Hayden Hurst, but at this point, I'm kind of feeling like we don't have one. And if it does turn out that Hayden Hurst is that guy, it never hurts to have 2 of those guys. So if Joe can go find somebody, maybe Njoku's the guy. And with a quarterback like Justin in a scheme like ours, who knows? Maybe the guy just runs wild, or who knows? Maybe we get Mikey back. I'd love to have Mikey Dub back. Like I was saying last week, he's a great team guy. He was never a prima donna. Okay. It was always about the team. It was never about Mike. Mike's biggest issue, once he got past his really crappy rookie season, was just staying healthy. That was his biggest problem, was staying healthy between the back issues he had, and then getting nicked up here and there. But it's the NFL. You get nicked up. So we need a red zone threat, and we need a deep threat. Now, if you can kill 2 birds with 1 stone, sweet. If not, do what you need to do, Joe.
No one wanted Hayden Hurst to be a successor more than I did coming into the offseason.
Yeah, love the dude.
But we really don't have any reason to believe that it's going to change. I'm not out on Hayden Hurst. I'm never going to be that type of person who's just like, yeah, throw that guy away. I have hope, but we really don't have a lot of reason to believe that that's going to come to life. So, like we just discussed, I do think that with all the variables and considerations of what's happening, because it's been evident, some days we cannot get the run game going. 40 yards is not going to do it when we got our 2 tackles in the game. No. So I seriously don't think someone like Joe Ortiz is sitting there thinking like we're riding this out. So that's my thought, guys. I do think that whether, by the time the deadline's done, we're going to have something else.
Well, we haven't had Joe that long, but for the time we've had him, he has been more active in these 9 months.
Yeah.
Came in February, March, getting ready to go into November, call it 9 months that he's been with us. He's made more moves in that period of time than Telesco's made the entire time he was with us. And that may be oversimplifying it, but it sure feels like it. Okay, so Ortiz is not just sitting there going, well, we'll ride out this season with what we've got, and in the off season we'll start, filling holes and doing that. That doesn't seem to be how he operates. And so I suspect between now and the trade deadline, somebody will be joining the Lightning Bolts, and hopefully, as a minimum, it's a red zone target. As a minimum,
right.
Okay, he is a red zone target as a minimum. So hang in there, guys. Like Andrew said, hang in there. I don't think the team's resting on their laurels. There's still 11 games to play. I witnessed an 0-4 Chargers team run out in a 16-game season, 12 straight, 12-4, and make it to the playoffs. Okay. Stranger things have happened, and Harbaugh's a unique guy. Okay. Me personally, I maybe had higher expectations of Harbaugh magic than reality is kind of setting in here with our roster and the execution of the folks on our roster and some of the early injuries we've had this season. We've had our share of injuries. Everybody does, but I think that's affected our ability to scheme, to get comfortable, as a whole team playing together. I think it was Disley in his post-game interview is basically what he said, which is, look, we're going to get better every game. We're still a new coaching staff and a new group of guys all coming together. We're going to continue to improve. And so I believe that's true. That's how Harbaugh operates. Mentor, he's still got room to improve on the defense. This game kind of showed some of that with the Cardinals. And, Giro's still doing his Giro thing. Mark my words, all of you guys who are doubting Giro right now, a day's going to come in the not too distant future where you're going, like, he won a G-Row jersey or something. Okay. This offense is going to get impressive, especially with Justin at the helm. So that's it for the Saints game. I really don't have much more. We've mostly talked about injuries. Just real quick, though, I don't think we came out of the Cardinals game with any new major injuries that's going to sideline anybody. Not that I'm aware of. Again, when Jim does do his thing, it's really hard to pin down how serious an injury is. But I don't recall anybody coming out serious.
Did you get a chance to look at that video I sent you with Eric Tomlinson?
I was trying to, but for whatever reason, it just was still. I thought I ran it, but it just sat there still. But yeah, what were you? Is the guy a blocking machine or what?
Yeah. So there's
a reason he's on our roster. Okay.
Yeah. That was not a tweet, but on X, someone said, for those of you wondering why Eric Tomlinson's on the roster, and it's a run to the right side, which everyone knows we get success to the left side. It's a run to the right side, and he takes a defensive end from the Cardinals, gets him, puts him on his back. I'm like, okay, well now I understand. It's that's pretty badass. You're not this machine in the reception department, but that's pretty cool too. Ben, to add to the thing with Giro, we have developed depth, which to what I'm starting to really, everyone knows depth's important, but to this extent, it's a little different. There's a reason why we don't have this flashy roster on the offense, at least. We got depth this year, and we got these players that we're figuring out. The Eric Tomlinson post, that is a perfect example of oh, that's your purpose here. Okay, I understand. So still work to be done. But yeah, Joe Ortiz has been pretty awesome, and it's far from over.
Yeah, I agree. We like to run a lot of 12 and 13 personnel. So you're talking 2 tight or 3 tight. And then you throw number 44 in there as well. Load up. Get big bodies, block, and get that run game going. So, Disley's a stud blocker. We all know that. If this Tomlinson guy, that wasn't an anomaly, and that's his bread and butter as blocking tight end, that bodes well for us. So, again, I think we'll see what Joe does. A red zone target would be sweet, though. As far as players coming back, right now I'm not aware of anybody other than DJ. I'm not hearing any rumblings that Joey's anywhere near ready to come back.
He was at practice this week, today.
Pardon?
Or Joey was at practice today, is my understanding.
Working off to the side still, though?
Oh, boy, I wish I could answer that question. I can't.
Yeah, well, today's Wednesday, so we'll get a couple more injury reports as we get closer to the weekend. It won't help for the pod, but all of us pay attention to that. If we get Joey back, that's huge. Zont just went on IR. Fulton just went on No, Fulton didn't go on IR, actually, did he?
No. Was he suited up? I thought I saw him out there at one point. Am I crazy? No, he wasn't out there.
I don't think he was out there. No. Jasir Taylor was out there.
That's right.
Dean Leonard's, he got put on IR. Jasir was out there. Hart was out there. I think our other rook, Tarheeb, was out there. And who am I missing? I'm missing one. But, we are not playing with our strength in our secondary, especially at the corner position. So I'm not hearing, anybody coming back right now other than DJ. So we'll continue to monitor that and see if we can, get some more healthy bodies back going. Special teams, not a whole lot to talk about there. These guys are holding up their end of the bargain, J.K. Scott's doing his thing. He punted just fine. Like I said, Dicker's a weapon. I mean, the guy is an absolute weapon. We're blessed to have him, especially after that spate of kickers we went through when we just moved up to LA. It was horrible for a while there. And our coverage units have been pretty doggone good. I think Dicker, for the most part, percentage-wise, he's probably kicked 80% of them out of the end zone. But on that 20% that have been returns, with one or two exceptions, they've held them, between the 20 and the 35. So special teams is holding up their end of the bargain. We got our guy back, Nick,
Neiman.
last week, so that's going to help. So anything else on Chargers, Saints, Cardinals before we do our game predictions and get out of here?
Nope. I mean, I'll just say it's super confusing, and we just don't know as far as the injuries go. But hopefully QJ's back, and we'll just kind of see what type of offense rolls out there. I'll be posting as much as I know as the next person as it comes, but that just comes with the territory with our regime.
Yeah, in fact, that's the receiver I was forgetting about earlier.
Okay.
Not the DB that we were just talking about, but earlier I was trying to think of who the other receiver was that was out besides DJ. And let me ask you this real quick, and then we'll get into our game predictions and wrap up. Do you think QJ could have been a difference maker in the Cardinals game?
I do. Yeah, why not?
How many touchdowns has he scored this season?
Exactly.
At least 3 or 4, maybe 5. I think he's been a decent red zone threat.
Yeah, I'm not sitting on the fence saying he was going to have 3 touchdowns, 100 yards, but he would have. Everyone was eating in that game, and if QJ were able to find some success, absolutely, of course.
He's got 3 touchdowns in 6 games, so it's likely he could have been the guy.
He's trending in the right direction.
Yeah, he could have been the guy to get us that 1 touchdown we needed to put us over the top. Or he could have been the guy instead of Rager who caught that damn ball and didn't fumble it. So I'm just curious what your thoughts were on that. If QJ was in the game, if he might have been enough versus him not being there. So it's an interesting perspective. Game predictions against the Saints. I will go ahead and take the honors this week.
All right.
I don't think I've gone first yet.
Okay.
So you were talking about you think this is the week to get right, and you think we might finally put some points on the board. And before the pod, as I was thinking about it, that's exactly what I was thinking about. I think our boys are a little pissed. I think they're a little salty, and that goes to G-Row too. Okay. I think this is that game where we're going to be able to show that, look, we can put points on the board and we can do it in many different ways. And so I'm looking at, I think our defense is going to stay on pace. They've been averaging, they were number 1 in league points scored against them at 13 going into the Cardinals game. Cardinals got 17. So they're going to still be right in there. They're probably 13 and change. It probably didn't even tick it up to 14 points per game with the 17 points. So if we're not leading, we're still right up there in the top as far as points against. So 34-14.
Ooh.
I think we come in and we get right. And I think we get right.
Just you saying that, I just had to make an adjustment.
Okay, that's fair. Until it goes public, it's not official.
No, I love it. I'm right there with you. I love it though. So like I said, this is our get right game. This is by no means the Saints get right game. There's nothing that spells success for the Saints. This game spells everyone is going to have a day. The rushing, the receiving, Justin Herbert, go down the line. This is our game. So I got a 28-7 win. I think that the only reason I'm giving them that 7 is I'm just kind of thinking back on that Broncos game where they had nothing to lose. They were down. They were down bad, and they were just throwing it out there. I think they might get one of those little scores at the end of the game. Yeah. I love the confidence. I don't know if our offense is exactly going to move the ball like that. I love yours, but I got 28-7.
Well, it's 28 and 34 are 1 score apart. So,
27. I was like, no, I go 28.
Right, right. They're one score apart basically. So if our defense turns the Saints over a few times and gets Justin a couple extra possessions, I it's not like I'm saying they're going to put a 50 burger up. I think 34 is. They could have scored 34 in this game, right? If all those field goals were touchdowns, include Rager's fumble, include Tier Tart's fumble, if all 5 of those damn things were touchdowns instead of field goals, that's 35 points, right? So
you're absolutely right.
We are more than capable of putting that up. Will we put it up? I think the Saints might be the right team at the right time for us to start clicking a little bit more and get back some of that confidence that we're heading in the right direction. So it's going to be a fun game. It's a home game. It's a good time for the Chargers to have a home game. And our boys are playing ball again. Win or lose, it's still fun to be there and root for our Chargers. So those guys who, when there's a loss, they whine and complain, and I'm going to jump off the bandwagon. Hey, I've been watching Chargers for 40 plus years. I'm used to it. Okay, so it takes a certain kind of fan to stick with the Chargers through growing pains, and that's all this is right now, is growing pains. Trust me. When you got a quarterback like Justin and you got a coach like Jim, just sit tight. It's coming.
Yeah, absolutely. This you aren't a Chargers. Yeah, have you been a Chargers fan? If that's the case, like
since the year Coryell joined in '78, mid-season.
Wow. Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, I really don't have really much to add to this other than we have a lot of reasons to be optimistic. We sitting at 3-3, 500. We have the rest of the season ahead of us. They're on a 5-game losing streak?
Yep. Let's make it 6.
Let's make it 6.
Yeah. By the way, and we need to wrap this one up, but as I was watching the Cardinals game, I had this thought. I miss Antonio Gates badly. Now, Phillip and Antonio had a really special chemistry. They knew what each other was going to do, is from practicing and years and everything. But Gates is so good and Justin's so good. I suspect if Gates was in his prime right now, he would have that same chemistry with Justin. So I'm not saying Njoku's Gates, but if we could get, again, it's that red zone. We need that red zone threat, that red zone target. So maybe that's Njoku. I don't know.
Maybe, but and to your point, like the tight end is such a cool weapon in the NFL. And if you look around, there seems to be a commonality there. A lot of these guys have this really cool tight end weapon. And I thought about that in the offseason like crazy. I was pretty a pretty big cheerleader for Brock Bowers. I was like, I love the idea of that. It's like,
it would have been great if we could have got Alt and Bowers. I don't know how you pull that off, but boy, that would have been sweet. But no, a threat receiving tight end goes all the way back. Ozzie Newsome, Kellen Winslow, who we drafted in the '79 draft, right? Incredible draft. No, pardon me, it was JJ in '79, Winslow in '80. But Tony Gonzalez, Shannon Sharp, then you got Gronk, and you got Kelsey and Gates. And so if you have that, especially if we have what we have now, which is kick-ass blocking tight ends, but then you have that receiving tight end. And Gates' specialty was from playing highly competitive basketball. It was almost uncoverable unless we played the Patriots and then Belichick knew how to triple team him and basically erase him off the field. So I was sitting there watching this game. I'm going, we need a Gates. And it just dawned on me as we're wrapping up the pod here that I had been thinking that and maybe tying that together with this Njoku rumor. So who knows how it's going to pan out. And, none of these moves are guaranteed. Hopkins may work out. He may not. Amari Cooper may work out in Buffalo. He may not. Yeah, we saw what Knucklehead did with the Jets in his first performance. That didn't look super sweet.
Didn't move the needle like we talked about.
Yeah, right. So you don't know until it happens. But the Chargers have had good luck bringing guys in midseason, guys like Curtis Conway and Keenan McCardell, and we've had some guys we've brought in who came in and meshed really well and were huge contributors. So Ortiz, you need to earn your keep. You already have, but keep doing what you're doing, man, and get us that red zone threat. Let's wrap it up. Any closing remarks, my friend?
No, just the old-fashioned bolt up, baby.
Yeah, bolt up, man. Chargers fans for life, and looking forward to this game this week. Looking forward to this being, as we've both talked about here, every opportunity for the Chargers to get right. So let's get right. Let's get to 4-3 and head into the stretch here where we've got some really good, winnable games against winnable opponents. And with that is this episode of ChargersCast. Appreciate you guys hanging out with us. If you guys haven't already done it, go down below and subscribe. That way we know you appreciate the pods and you will get notifications. I think there's a bell down there too. I am not the YouTube guru, but I think there's a bell down there too that you can click when you subscribe. So you'll get notifications when new pods drop. Do us a favor. Also leave us a comment. Really appreciate hearing from you guys. If you guys like the take we have, get in there, give us a comment. If you've got a different take, love to hear it. This is all for fans. It's by fans for fans. So we don't have the market cornered on opinions by any stretch of the imagination. So with that, thank you for joining us for another edition of ChargersCast. Andrew, make sure you go, if you don't already follow Andrew on Instagram at Bolt Casa. He's turning out some really cool content. I'm actually a little bit jealous. Once we end the pod, I need to hit you up and see if you can't hook me up with some of that killer content that you're putting together. I'm Kirk Brewer with ChargersCast. You find us on YouTube. That's where we're posting all the podcasts. And we also have an account on Instagram where we do post some content as well. We're still trying to get our Instagram game up a little bit. And with that, hey, man, you guys, appreciate you. Go Chargers. We'll be back next week to go over the Saints game and preview. Who did I say we follow up after the Saints?
The Browns?
It is the Browns, yes. So we'll be back to preview that game as well. All right, that's it for now. See you guys next week.
Herbert stops, launches deep. Jalen Guyton, he's got it! Touchdown Chargers! What a throw!